Hey everyone, welcome. We'll be starting in a few minutes. You will remain on mute for the duration of the webinar, but please feel free to use our Q&A feature for any questions you have during the presentation, and we'll also be taking additional questions at the end. A recording of this webinar will be sent out shortly after the webinar, along with a PDF of our EdTech Top 40 list.
Hey, thanks everybody for joining. Reveal of the EdTech Top 40 for the school year 2017-18. This webinar is part of our EdTech Trends powered by Learn platform. EdTech Trends are data-driven reports, analyses, and consultation for EdTech decision makers. So if you like what you hear from EdTech Top 40 Reveal or have other questions about data in EdTech, feel free to reach out to us or look for more resources at learnplatform.com/edtech-trends. But let's get started. Today, we'll be revealing the digital tools that were accessed the most by K-12 school districts during the 17-18 school year. We'll be talking about how that information was gathered. We'll talk a bit about what the EdTech Top 40 is and what it is not. There's some trends, obviously the products themselves, and how you can go deeper within your own organization. But first, it feels like we should introduce ourselves. We're so excited to have so many of you join us. While some of you know us, my name is Carl Rectanis. I'm the founder and CEO of Learn. We're a research-driven B Corp. That means for benefit, which basically translates to us not focusing on bottom line, but more on our impact. We are founded on the principles of expanding equitable access. That is narrowing the digital divide so all students have access to the tools and technologies that work best for them. We believe in intellectual honesty and that is what drives our work, all towards helping you and others make results matter. And by that, we mean student achievement. Because when results matter, everything else changes. Policies, purchasing, practices, you name it. I'm joined today by Dr. Daniel Stanhope. He's an applied psychometrician. As an industrial and organizational psychologist, he's led education evaluation and built some of the most advanced tools for EdTech evaluation in the world. He also helps ensure that Learn and our team of researchers, analysts, educators, and technologists deliver practical yet rigorous methods, tools, and insights so that educators like you and their partners can fulfill their goals. Danny, how are we doing today?
Doing great. Carl, as always, excited to be here with you. And although I like it, I'm more excited for the fact that we get to share these insights with great folks on the call today. So, shall we get started?
Yeah, let's do it. We have an interactive first engagement, way for all the participants to participate. Obviously, this won't be available for the recording, but you can play along at home without using our poll. Question for you. In the average U.S. school district, how many EdTech tools are accessed every month? So this is based on insights and data analyzed by over 300 different organizations with over 1,000 students each. The question is, how many EdTech tools were accessed every month during the 17-18 school year by each organization? You can see there on the poll, you've got options from 0 to 50, 50 to 200, 200 to 500, 500 to 700. And I have no earthly idea. So choose there, and we'll give you about 20 seconds to put in your best guess. Let's just pretend to use the stuff we saw yesterday. 200 to 500. All right. Don't forget to click submit. Give you 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 more seconds.
Feels like
You should be hearing the Alex Trebek, Jeopardy music in your head. That's right. All right, let's reveal your guesses. Wow, it looks like 40% of you thought over 200 to 500 different products. That's a lot of products.
And interesting enough, we actually have folks guessing at all of those ends of the spectrum, from a few to having no idea. But yeah, the majority are picking between 200 and 500 products. Is that right?
Yeah, looks like it. Well, let's reveal the answer. The actual data shows 548. The average school district with more than 1,000 students. That is not a big district, but these districts range. All of them had over 1,000 students, and in each of them, on average, they were averaging more than 500 EdTech tools accessed by their teachers and students every month.
Yeah, and folks, to clarify, that's 548 unique tools that they're accessing. When we discovered this, we were both shocked, but at the same time, when thinking about it, we weren't so shocked, because when we speak with schools and districts across the country, they often refer to their EdTech context as the Wild West.
It's true. I mean, one of the things that makes me think about is, they say the Wild West, and there's no doubt. I mean, we've seen an explosion of tools. But as an EdTech director, a CTO, a chief academic officer, 500 tools, what does that mean for student data privacy vetting? What does it mean for purchasing, let alone ensuring strong implementation, support, and getting the best learning? I mean, that's impactful. That is, that also drives why we share the EdTech Top 40, right? Along with other free resources. Learn Platform offers these free resources for educators. And before we reveal the EdTech Top 40, we just wanted to highlight some of these tools that might be useful. Certainly, we've recently launched, Danny, with you and your team, the Personalizing Learning at Scale District Self-Assessment and Diagnostic Report. Takes just a couple minutes to complete, useful diagnostic to understand where your EdTech infrastructure is in supporting your goals of blended and personalizing learning, from the Wild West onto an optimized or fully personalized situation. So great tool there. Certainly school and district leaders, state leaders can access our Learn Platform Resource Center, full of rubrics, frameworks, research-based case studies, that you, the team, and others have led. And finally, one other free tool that has big impact is our Google integration. Totally free and can be turned on by any individual or organization to understand which tools are actually being used across their teachers and students. For many of our listeners who already work with us, yeah, this is great and has powered a lot of insights for them on the breadth of EdTech tools and usage. But if you haven't turned that on, definitely go to you can either go to the Google Suite or have your Google administrator turn that on. Our team can help you. It takes about 5 minutes, but drives incredible insights. We also, at Learn Platform, for those of you who aren't familiar, what drives a lot of this information is Learn Platform is the most comprehensive EdTech management and most advanced rapid cycle evaluation system in the world. The educators and their organizations across the country use Learn Platform to organize, streamline, and then rapidly analyze the impact of their EdTech. That's so they can inform their instructional decisions, their operational decisions, and budget decisions. So you can feel free to check us out. But most importantly, I think what has been so important to us is, many of the folks on the call and beyond lead this work, right? It's all responsive to the fastest growing, most diverse network of EdTech decision makers in schools, districts, states, foundations, and their partners. So many of those folks here and many others learning from each other, sharing with each other, leading to make results matter. So really excited about that, but more excited to get to what brought us here today. Danny, want to tell us more about what the EdTech Top 40 is and is not?
Absolutely. So hundreds of education organizations have run analyses on billions of data points across thousands of products. Just get a grasp of that. It's a lot of stuff going on there. And with the EdTech Top 40, what we're able to do is pull all that stuff together and start to generate some insights. So here we can reveal the products that were most accessed in the 2017-2018 school year by your students and educators. Thus, the EdTech Top 40 represents the breadth of tools accessed based on real-time activity across schools, districts, and states. However, breadth is just one piece of the puzzle. So to supplement this breadth with an examination of depth, in other words, to go deeper and dig deeper into the analyses, we encourage you to check out our rapid cycle evaluation engine called Impact, where schools and districts can examine different types of EdTech usage and then examine whether that usage relates to important educational outcomes. So just again, this is the breadth of use going on across the country, but we can also dig deeper. Finally, I want to point out that this study leverages analyses through Learn Platform's Google Chrome extension. Now, we found this to account for approximately 85% of web traffic, regardless of the operating system. So we can conclude rather confidently that the results are representative of EdTech access across the landscape.
That's right. So you can see there on the slide the note about the sample size. Over 2 billion different data points analyzed, a couple thousand products accessed, 300 different organizations. I mean, just massive amount of insights that's used. But this is about breadth, not depth. And finally, it's worth noting, I think, because it does come up, all of Learn Platform's materials, tools, and technologies are completely compliant with federal and state regulations around student data privacy, et cetera. So excited about this. Hey, so what is the EdTech not?
Yep, I'm glad you pointed out the privacy and the student, or the data privacy and data security, because that's of utmost concern to us. But yeah, like Carl said, you now know what the EdTech Top 40 is, so let's briefly touch on what it is not. So first, the EdTech Top 40 is not an evaluation of impact or product efficacy. The amount of time students and educators access these products is not necessarily an indicator of how effective they are at improving outcomes. As we've mentioned previously, though, to examine efficacy, we have Learn Platform's impact functionality. As you can tell, we're touching on that quite a bit because we do want to make sure that you know that we have this breadth, but we can also go deeper. Secondly, what the EdTech Top 40 is not it's not influenced in any way by advertising or paid sponsorship. So no one can pay to be on the list or to get their rankings bumped up. Can't game the system at all in any way. We're completely objective there. It cannot be impacted by any financial transaction. So lastly, the EdTech Top 40 is not a comprehensive analysis of depth or different types of usage or different levels of usage and how they impact learning outcomes or other goals. This, again, is the amount of times these products are accessed, which we find to be very directionally accurate in terms of predicting what else is going on out in space.
Yeah, said another way, and I think you hit it home there, Danny. If you want to understand what you're using that works, first you have to understand what you're using. And that's this first step. And the EdTech Top 40 is an indication both of the power and potential of that. But ultimately, we do care about effectiveness and have those tools. But right now, it always comes up, and you've reiterated it a couple times. This is the first step, but we do a lot of work around impact and effectiveness. We don't want to confuse that work, and you can learn more about the difference between breadth and depth across the Resource Center at EdTech.
Not to get too nerdy, but they just answer different research questions, right? So both research questions are important, and this one here, in terms of who's accessing what and how much, actually leads into answering the following research question, and we can get at both of those. So
absolutely. So you and the team have looked at, this is thousands of EdTech tools. We have deep information and insights from across districts. And that meta-analysis includes a lot of detailed tags and insights, but you've been able to bucket these into half a dozen areas to help get a little more clarity and understanding of what trends are happening in the EdTech Top 40.
Yep, we continuously work with educators, researchers, technologists, and other experts in the field, like folks like yourself, to classify and tag thousands of products. Accordingly, our team placed each product from the top 40 into one of 6 categories. And those 6 categories are there in front of you, but they are assessment, content, learning management system, reference, operational, and social network. And as you can tell, we place each of these different products into one of these buckets based on their primary utility. And if you're looking at a product company that has multiple products, we tag each of those products individually based on their primary utility.
So it'd be interesting for folks to think about right now. What do they think the difference is? How much of these different tools are being accessed in the EdTech Top 40?
Yeah, I think it's a fun thought experiment to think about the different products that are in a space, think about your own context, the context that surrounds you, and think about, what are students and teachers using the most out of these different categories. Fortunately for you, we have that answer. So
there you go.
We're curious to know, just ask yourself, does this align with your thinking? Why or why not? But looking at this, realize that it is the top 40. It's the tools, and this chart breaks down those tools based on where they fall in each of those 6 categories.
Interesting.
And initially, I can kind of see, the first thing that I noticed at least, is that about 75% of the tools in the top 40 can be split across reference, content, and operational. So those 3 seem to house the most products that are being used. Another noteworthy finding is the consistency. So as you know, we call it trends because we do this over time, and we can produce these reports. In 2017, we produced one, and here's our 2018. And one thing that's noteworthy is the consistency and the breakdown of categories from last year to this year. The only real switch in rank ordering from last year to this year, from 2017 to 2018, was LMS and social network, whereas last year, social was the smallest. This year, LMS products seem to be the lowest. But it's a small change. Yeah, they switch spots there.
Danny, point of clarification and question. This is based on the number of products within the EdTech Top 40, not overall products. Absolutely. And it's not an indication of the amount of usage of those on this pie chart. It's just the number of those products and how they separate it. Is that right?
Absolutely. So these are the top 40. You can see 25% of 40 is 10. So 10 fall in reference, 10 fall in operational, 10 fall in content, and then you can see how the rest breaks out from there. The beauty is that we also have that usage as well. And as we get into the top 40, you'll not only get to see the products, but you'll be able to see the extent to which they're being used.
Interesting. So, shall we show them? That's why we're here, right?
Yeah, probably stop talking about it, just get into it, huh?
Drum roll, please. Here you go. Let's reveal this is the top half of the EdTech Top 40 for the 17-18 school year. Danny, make a note, you'll go into detail, but I just want to mention to everybody that everyone here will receive a copy of the infographic with the full top 40, which we're revealing now in just a moment, and more details. But tell us what we're looking at.
Yep, so here we present the first 20 of the top 40. And we're not holding out on you. We'll give you the next 20 in the next slide. But from here, you can see the first 20 out of that top 40. And a quick note on these categories that you see at the top. You see 5 different categories. The first 3 are pretty self-explanatory. You get a rank on the far left, and that is your ranking. 1 is the highest, 40 is the lowest. In terms of access again. The second category you see there is the product, so we'll list the product, and then the category, so which category that product falls under. The other 2 categories are, or the other 2 columns that you see up there are how we actually pick who the top 40 are in terms of the data and analysis. So the percent users that you see is how the rankings are determined. And this represents the percentage of users from the total user base who use the tool. So for instance, just to give you an example, we'll start with this, the one on top of there, number one. Nearly 90% of students and teachers who are in the overall user base used Google Docs. And the final column there, percent usage, is also interesting. And it's also interesting to compare against the percent users. So the percent usage, the final column, represents the percentage of total usage events accounted for by the given tool. So you can see that nearly 30% of the total usage or accesses were done within Google Docs.
That's interesting. What trends did you see, Danny, when you took a look at this?
One thing I initially noted were that each of the 6 categories were represented in the top 20. All 6 of them are up there, and you have a relatively decent spread across those 6 categories.
Yeah, for sure. I also noticed that, for example, while LMS is, was the smallest in terms of the numbers, there's clearly been a contraction in that area. The actual usage events are much higher for that usage. So, folks are clearly using their LMS to access other content and other tools, even though there are fewer actual LMSs that are at the top of the pile.
Yeah, just digging into the numbers, you can see that over 15% of total usage is accounted for by just those 2 LMS products. So that's interesting indeed. Which also is a good way to start to look at the juxtaposition of comparison between percent users and percent usage. Just because there's more users doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be more of the overall usage. So that's an interesting comparison to make there.
Yeah, clearly some grouping at the top with a lot of Google, but what I see is, all 6 different categories in formative assessment tools. Interesting. Should we look at the second bottom half of the top 40?
Yep, let's do it.
All right.
So here we'll reveal products 21 through 40 in the EdTech top 40. It's worth noting the layout is the exact same as the previous slide, so you can interpret these numbers as the same way as you did on the last one, so you already have that mental model of how to interpret these. And then when you receive the PDF, as Carl mentioned, all 40 will be on the same list, so you can compare across the list. One other noteworthy finding that I'm seeing here, Carl, I don't know if you notice it as well, but there appears to be an uptick of content, quite a few content products on this list here.
Yeah, I see a couple things. I mean, one, it points to me that once you have an LMS and operational tools, you start to see increased growth and even subject matter focus, right? So you start to see some math, science, literacy, and ELA tools that are specific, as well as these broader groups. Certainly, the other thing is throughout the list, I mean, a lot of reference materials, right? So students are clearly, asking as opposed to, memorizing facts. They're using tools to go get the data.
Indeed. And those who fear that everyone's just spending all their time on social network, the data are showing that that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, I remember, 5 or 10 years ago, people asked if we should EdTech, right? If there should be technology in schools, aren't kids just going to use social networks? A, we know that learning is a social modality, but B, we can see that, the bulk of the effort is really around these learning tools.
And if the anecdotes and the stories that we're hearing in the field match up, we can also note there that a lot of effective instructors and educators are very good at using some of these social networks to actually drive a lot of informative learning. Yeah. And like you said, learning is a social construct. So
when folks receive the PDF, they'll be able to click into any product. It'll link directly to the Learn Platform product library where they can get more details. So we'll be sure to send that out. I know we'll have a moment for questions at the end, but I think super informative. Certainly, as we mentioned earlier, this is not a reference for effectiveness, but it is answers to some basic research questions. And quite frankly, what we think is important is to inject facts into discussions around what's working best for students, and we really need to understand, what's actually being used across the market. If for those of you who haven't and you want to be able to see your own organization's top 40 and beyond, see how you benchmark against 548 average products being used, we encourage you to turn on the Google extension for your organization. You've got a website there at go.learnplatform.com/G Suite send that to your Google administrator. Certainly you'll have a chance to, our team can help, but quick links, 3-step process to turn those on. And in just a couple days, you'll have really rich, detailed dashboards and information to be able to see, what's going on in your organization, track that month over month, et cetera. And this is, like we said earlier, a free tool that any administrator can turn on.
A lot of great insights.
So we'll take a pause quickly for questions. And you can just type those Q&A directly into the Q&A section. For those of you listening to the recorded webinar, we'll encourage you can email us at info@learnplatform.com anytime, and we'll go from there. For the benefit of the recorded webinar, we've skipped the questions, moved to the final slide. So thank you so much for your engagement and questions. Thank you for participating. We wanted to share 3 options for how you can take that next step, right? First, encourage everybody to go and get your own Personalizing Learning at Scale diagnostic report. The website is there, and we'll provide it in the email follow-up. It takes about 10 minutes, and as we mentioned, really designed to help districts figure out where they are and what their next steps should be when it comes to driving better implementations and improvement across their EdTech infrastructure.
Quick 10-minute assessment, and you get your own personalized report. So you will get a report when you take that assessment.
Yeah, it's great. Second option, as we mentioned earlier, get your own inventory going. Set up that dashboard. While we know that sometimes people charge or have done all sorts of hacks to try and figure out what's being used in surveys, this Google integration is the fastest way and certainly the least expensive and free to be able to do that. And finally, if you have questions and want to improve EdTech, whether it's going deeper on any of these questions, maybe you wonder which of the in each category, right? In the LMSs, what are the highest used LMSs? What are the in specific subject matters? Or you want to figure out how to organize, streamline, and analyze EdTech in your own organization, or take advantage of any of the free resources. You can always schedule a call, a free consultation with one of our district analysts. These are folks who have experience across a network of schools, districts, states, and their partners to help them improve and make results matter. So thanks everybody for joining. Danny, this was fun. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, definitely. And at Learn, we obviously love running these analyses and generating these types of insights, but ultimately the most impactful and valuable way to do so is with you all involved. So let's get engaged and do this together.
Thanks. Have a great day, everybody.